Good evening. Welcome everybody to the webinar for the Bowes East Quieter Neighbourhood. We will start in probably a minute or so. I'll just let a few more people join. My name is Louise Bradley. I work for a company called ECF, and we've been brought in to support the engagement around the proposed design. I'll just give a little bit longer for a few more people to join, then I'll take you through how the webinar will work. Okay, I think we'll make a start. Good evening for those of you who've just joined the webinar this evening. My name is Louise and I'm going to take you through the agenda for this evening and just a few housekeeping slides before we then take you through the presentation. So the agenda for this evening, I'll take you through some housekeeping, as I just said. You'll then receive a presentation on the Journeys and Places programme, which is part of Enfield Council, and then an overview of the Quieter Neighbourhood and the proposal in particular for Bowes East. We'll then talk through the communications and engagement to date and how that's influenced the design, which is being presented this evening. And then there'll be the key next steps and timelines in terms of the decision-making process. This will be followed by questions from yourselves, which I'll take you through now on how we'll conduct that part of the webinar. Next slide, please, Ryan. Thank you. Okay, so at the top of your toolbar, you will see an icon saying Q&A. Please click on that and it will open a dialog box. You can then type your questions into that and the panelists will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Following tonight's webinar, we'll be reviewing the FAQs that are already on the project page and adding to them with any questions that have been asked tonight which haven't already been addressed. The actual Q&As from tonight won't be published, however we'll be reviewing all of them and including the themes within our reporting. If you have any other comments, just please post them separately to your questions. Just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be published on the Enfield Council's website. And if you haven't already, please complete the survey, which is available online through the link there. The closing date for the engagement process is just before midnight on Sunday, the 11th of February. I'm now going to pass you to the team at Enfield Council so they can all introduce themselves to you before we'll carry on with this evening's presentation. So if I can start with Ryan, please.
Hello, I'm Ryan Hicks. I'm a project manager on the Journeys and Places team, and I'll be working on the Bowes East Quieter Neighbourhood project. I'll pass it to Hassan.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi all, my name is Hassan. I lead the Neighbourhoods workstream for the Journeys and Places program, so this is one of the projects within that workstream. I'll pass on to Alex.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alex Stebbings and I work for a company called Norman Rock Prime, and we're supporting Enfield with the design of the scheme. I'll pass on to Mikey.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mikey Christoforou and I'm the Communications Officer for the Journeys and Places team here at Enfield Council. And I'll pass over to
Thanks, Mikey. Hi, everybody. My name is Liz Rhodes and I am the Communications and Engagement Lead for the Journeys and Places program. I'll pass over to Christina.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Gordon. I am the head of the Journeys and Places Program Management Office. So I work a little bit behind the scenes across the whole Journeys and Places program. So I'll now take us through a little bit about what the Journeys and Places team is all about and what we're trying to achieve as a team. So we are in a climate emergency, and Enfield Council declared a climate emergency back in 2019. Transport has a significant contribution on emissions and impacts air quality, and we know that poor air quality impacts people's health, and with air pollution, poor air pollution is linked to health conditions like asthma and other respiratory and health conditions. We want an equitable transport network. So we want a transport network that is safe and accessible for everyone, and that's really important to us. There are a lot of motor vehicles on our roads, and things like sat navs and Waze and Google. We have been seeing increases over a number of years in vehicles on, particularly on roads that have typically been more quiet and residential in nature. We can't simply build more roads to get our way out of congestion. So as a council, we need to manage the road space that we do have. It's a finite resource for us, and in doing so, we want to provide transport options for everyone. So we know that what we aren't able to solve everything all at once. It is it's a long-term goal that we're trying to work towards. But what we're doing as the Journeys and Places team is we're working on part of the system, and we want to enable more everyday journeys to be taken by walking, wheeling, cycling, making it easier to get to public transport. We have four main pillars of work within Journeys and Places, so I'll cover these on the slide and the next ones to follow. So one of our pillars is delivering a walking and cycling network. So examples of this would be improving crossings. You can see here crossings for people walking, cycling, and various modes to help improve those connections between and along some of our busier roads, as well as increasing our cycle network. So that might be via implementing separated cycle lanes where people cycling are physically separated from motor traffic, but also increasing our network on some of our quieter roads where traffic volumes are low enough that cycles can share the road space with people in motor vehicles where it's safe to do so. So the transport network has an important place function as well, and that's something that we do recognise as a team. It's a really important part of the environment that we work within. So enhancing town centres and the public realm, making them more vibrant places, and supporting our local economy in doing so. So our neighbourhoods workstream, that's what this project falls under. So that's all about looking at an area and looking at a neighbourhood and thinking about ways of how we can make that safer for everyone, and enabling transport options for people to walk, wheel, cycle, and part of that is also getting to public transport by walking, wheeling and cycling as well. Finally, a really important part of the program is informing and inspiring about active travel. So this is about some of the non-infrastructure, some of the things we don't build, but some of the activities and services that we help to provide. So things like working with schools to provide cycle training. This is we've got an all-ability cycling hub, which we help support people to get out on different types of cycles, adapted cycles, and other examples like working with community groups. That's from me. I will now pass over to Asan.
Thanks, Christina. So yeah, just covering what is a quieter neighborhood. So in general, quieter neighborhoods form part of a comprehensive approach to reduce speeds and volumes of motor vehicles in neighborhoods. So the goal of quieter neighborhoods is to create a safer, more attractive environment for people to travel through active and sustainable modes such as walking and cycling. So just trying to make it safer, yeah, and more enjoyable. And a quieter neighborhood it can include a range of features, which we'll be touching on in further detail slightly later on in this presentation. So in terms of the objectives, so the objectives of a quieter neighborhood are to create safer streets for residents and the local community. Essentially want to enable more people to walk, wheel and cycle, as well as just make it easier to access public transport. We want to improve the health and amenity of the local environment in that neighborhood, and also improve the physical health of people living within a quieter neighborhood. So why Bowes East? Well, this area has been chosen due to a number of factors. Looking at the indicators across the borough, it was identified this area had a lower air quality when compared against other areas in Enfield. It was also identified there was a number of health and deprivation indicators that could be improved with active travel in this area. There's also 2 schools in this area which could benefit from quieter neighborhoods initiatives such as school streets, St. Michael at Bowes and Tottenham Hall Infant School. And lastly, there's a number of limited areas of open space within this neighborhood. So yeah, just trying to improve that. And I will now pass on to Ryan, who will just talk in more detail about those design features.
Yep, so on the screen now you can see some of the design features included in this area. First, we have greening and rain gardens. Increased greening can help create an attractive and more relaxing environment for those residing or visiting the area. And as this area is in a floodplain, installing rain gardens would be beneficial as they would help reduce flooding. Additionally, rain gardens have other added benefits such as filtering contaminants from surface runoff and providing habitat and floral resources to pollinators. Next, we have crossings. We would like to improve pedestrian safety by adding new pedestrian crossings and improving existing ones. These can help improve the safety for pedestrians, especially those that are more vulnerable. Next, we see traffic calming measures. These are physical features used to reduce the speed of traffic passing through the area and make roads safer for all road users. Other benefits can include encouraging non-motorized users, improving the local environment, and reducing community severance. Traffic calming measures can include road humps, chicanes, road narrowing, and other engineered methods. And then next we see school streets. School streets create a safer space for students by reducing vehicle movements near the school entrances at drop-off and pickup times. This is achieved by restricting access to motor vehicles on specified roads through the use of automatic number plate recognition or ANPR cameras. Residents who live on these roads will still, with the school streets, would be able to apply for a permit, and so that they could still access their property even during those hours. And then last on here we have band turns. These help manage how traffic uses the road, and these would be indicated by signs with a red outer circle and showing a direction that you must not take. So next we could see the proposed interventions in the area. First, we can see that there are band right turns from the residential roads to the main roads. Some of the residential roads have been experiencing some excessive through traffic in the area, particularly from the southeast to the northwest, with the highest flow seen on Grenoble Gardens during peak hours and queuing up to green lanes. We think that the band right turns would help alleviate some of these problems. We accept that this will increase some of the journeys, but overall we expect reduced traffic volumes through the area. Next, we'll look at the school street, which is on both Tottenham Road and Grenoble Gardens. This is to create a safer environment for the students at both these schools to travel and to and from the school. This will include camera enforcements at the western end of Tottenham Road and the eastern end of Grenoble Gardens. Additionally, Fairbrook Road between Tottenham Hall Road and Princes Avenue would be modified to only have one-way traffic northbound to limit vehicles from entering the school street through Fairbrook Road. And then on Wolves Lane, we're proposing one new zebra crossing and modifying an existing informal crossing to be a zebra crossing. And then there's some traffic calming measures. We currently do not have the specifics on what the traffic measures will look like, but this will be developed as we progress the design. These measures should provide some safety for all road users and foster a safer environment for those looking to travel between Bowes East and the neighborhood to the east. And then lastly, kind of near the middle of the screen, you can see that there's a permanent closure on St. Cuthbert's Road and some additional greening within that area. This is to help create a more attractive environment and to provide additional benefits with the greening that would be installed. There are some properties currently located on this stretch of road, and access would be maintained for all these properties. So some design features regarding accessibility and equalities. The Equalities Act 2010 defines the following as protected characteristics, which will continue to be considered throughout the design. So we have age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex, sexual orientation, and then Enfield Council also considers socioeconomic status and care experience as additional characteristics. Next, I'm going to hand it off to Liz.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everybody. I'm going to speak to you a bit about the communications and engagement that we've been delivering with the community. So many of you will have already visited the project page for this project, which is hosted on the Let's Talk Enfield website. And you can see the link there on your screen, as well as the QR code that will take you to that page if you want to go on and read more information and take the survey. So the opportunity to comment on the plans is open until this Sunday, the 11th of February. So do encourage you to do so if you haven't already. You can either fill out the survey that's online on the project page, or you can email us at journeysandplaces@enfield.gov.uk, or you can write to us at the council at the Civic Centre. Next slide, please. Thanks. So we, on the 17th of January was when we launched this period of engagement, and we delivered letters to residents and businesses in the area. We've hosted 2 community drop-in sessions over the past couple of weeks. So thank you so much for everybody who came along to those and spoke with us. We've also been promoting the opportunity to comment on social media, so both on the Journeys and Places Facebook page and X account, formerly Twitter, as well as the Enfield Council pages. We've obviously got tonight's webinar as well, and we've been engaging with stakeholders, including Transport for London and the emergency services, which will continue throughout the life of the project. We'll also be posting updates and further information on the project page as the project progresses. So please do stay engaged in that page, as that's really the hub for information. And later in 2024, we'll be progressing to a statutory consultation on the draft traffic order, and there'll be a survey hosted on that page that you can take to participate in that opportunity. So a bit more about the project page. Again, there's a link and the QR code on your screen. It's, as I said, it's the hub for information. So there's the proposed plan for the project. We've got frequently asked questions, key dates, information on upcoming events and webinars, and we'll continue to do so throughout the project. As I mentioned, any engagement activities such as surveys, as well as the online map that we hosted last year in September, October, when the first phase of engagement was delivered. So all the activities are hosted on the project page. Notices of traffic orders as they come up will be posted on that page as well. And as I've mentioned, we'll be updating people through the news feed function on that page as well. This here is a picture of the project page, and you can see there the little box in the centre is highlighting where you can take the survey. So as I've mentioned, please do go on by this Sunday. If you haven't already taken the survey or emailed or written to us, please make sure that your comments are captured, and then we'll be going into writing a report and summarising what has been said. But Ryan's going to speak a bit more about that in a moment. Thanks.
Yep, so here is the project timeline. So as you can see, previously in September and October of 2023, we had an early engagement phase where we reached out and asked about issues and ideas around this neighborhood. Following that, we published the engagement finding report as a result of that early engagement period. Following that, we developed these concept designs that we shared with you today. And now you can see we're here in winter 2024, which is the second engagement. Following this, we expect to have an engagement finding report in spring 2024. After that, we'll use the findings within this engagement report to further progress the designs and come up with a detailed design. And then there'll be a decision to proceed with the project or not. And so that would be a statutory consultation, and that would be in autumn or winter of 2024. And then if the decision is to implement, we'll start with implementation at the end of 2024. And then following the completion of implementation, we will have post-implementation monitoring, which will be commencing in spring 2025. And then I think that's it, and I'll hand it over to Louise.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So what we'll do now is keep the proposed design on screen throughout the Q&A so that you have it there to refer to. We've also got the QR code there, which you can scan, which will take you to the project page if you want any further information or want to complete the survey after the webinar. So we'll start with our first few questions. The first two relate to air quality, actually. So the first question is, how does closing off some of the roads stop CO2 emissions in other areas if the traffic then just moves to roads next door to the scheme? And carrying on from that, is there any data to suggest that these changes that have been carried out in other areas do actually work and not increase pollution? Who'd like to answer those?
I can.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, so one goal of this project is to kind of help foster a safer environment for people to use active travel. So we're hoping that with some of these changes, people will feel more inclined to participate in active travel and try to look away from using vehicles. And then for the data to suggest that for the data on the increased pollution, we'll be gathering some air quality information pre-implementation, and then we will look to be gathering further data post-implementation so that we could compare and see what impacts, if any, there was.
Okay,
I can pick up the second part of that question about the data from other areas. So two other quieter neighbourhoods that Enfield Council has implemented relatively recently over the last couple of years are the Bowes Primary Area Quieter Neighbourhood and the Fox Lane Area Quieter Neighbourhood. And both of those projects had monitoring plans that outlined that captured data on traffic and air quality and other aspects. And similarly, these projects will do the same. On those other schemes, the air quality presented no significant negative impacts on external areas to the scheme. Those results are available on the Let's Talk website and can be found there. They're published online.
Thanks, Christina. And when it comes to active travel, what are the assumptions? What's the basis for the assumptions that people want to walk, wheel and cycle more?
I can pick up some of that as well. So a lot of what we work very closely with Transport for London, and they have a sort of policy document called the Mayor's Transport Strategy, and that is a sort of overarching document that outlines the transport direction for London and London boroughs to take over the next several years as we work towards various targets. And so there's a lot of research that's gone into that, and that's sort of one example of sort of policy documentation that we follow. And so we work in line with that around increasing levels of walking and cycling, directly in line with the outcomes and sort of policy, and the policy direction that Transport for London has set.
Great, thank you.
I can also comment on that if that's all right, Louise.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, over recent years we've seen an increase in people cycling across the borough. So we do take cycle counts at some key locations, but also through our services. So we offer cycle training, as well as Dr. Bike, free repairs, and we have an all-ability cycling hub in Bush Hill Park, and all of them have quite a lot of demand. We work closely with schools as well to offer free cycle training to students across the borough, and that's a very, very popular service, and we are seeing a lot of uptake from younger people as well.
Thanks, Liz. And as council, why is this a priority in terms of expenditure compared to maybe other antisocial behaviour issues that might need to be addressed?
I could answer that one. So in terms of the funding for the project, so the way it works for this project, we get funding which has been allocated for specific purposes. So that funding comes from multiple sources, such as TfL, Section 106, and so that the money that we get for this project, we need to be using to essentially fulfill very specific objectives. So that is the basis for our spending.
Thanks, Sam. And will there be residence permits, and how much will they cost?
Yeah, so the residence permits for school streets will be free, and yeah, they will be available for the residents that live on the streets where the school streets will be implemented.
Thanks, Sam. When it comes to right-hand turns, the proposed banned right-hand turns, how are people living in the affected streets affected with those bans in place?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So I guess as Ryan touched on when he was describing the proposals, we do accept that with the ban right turns, some local movements will be effective and have slightly longer routes. So if you're coming from, for example, Grenoble Gardens or Berkshire Gardens, there'll be the opportunity to loop round up Wolves Lane and onto the A406, or alternatively, potentially it's roads to the west, which would enable a U-turn to then head north, and then similarly from the east, eastbound right turns. People could, if for example on Oxhill Avenue, turn left and then onto Grenoble Gardens to then head south on Green Lanes, or there's an opportunity via Pincers Avenue or Tottenhall to the east of the area to enable you to head south. So we, as Ryan said, we do accept that some local trips will see increased distance, but the aim is that net reduction in traffic, so the much higher proportion of traffic that is through the area will be prevented from doing those rat run through the area via the banned right turns.
Right, thanks, Alex. With regards to potential impacts on local residents, what conversations have you had to date? I think, Liz, you can probably answer that one.
Yeah, sure. So we first went out with the idea and the concept of a quieter neighbourhood in the Bowes East area last year in September and October. So that's what we refer to as the first phase of engagement with the community. We went out with a blank slate saying to people, we're proposing a quieter neighbourhood in some form in this area, and showed literally just the outline of the area that we're looking at, and asked for people's ideas, as well as asking them about what current issues they face in the area that could be addressed through a Quieter Neighbourhood program. So yeah, we ran a couple of community drop-in sessions and a webinar at that time as well. We had an online interactive map hosted on the project page, which you can view at the moment, but it's closed. You can view what people said on there if you'd like. We also have the engagement summary report to view on the project page if anybody's interested. You can find that on the right hand side of the project page under document library. So we basically heard from people at that early stage, and those comments then were read and digested by the project team and the designers, and they are what helped to inform the design that we're proposing today.
Thanks, Liz. I've got two questions here regarding data and modelling. So what data do you have supporting the level of safety on the roads, i.e. the number of incidents that makes Bowes East be considered as a QN for this area? And similarly, in terms of data, what modelling has been put in place for projected traffic flows? Who can answer those two questions?
I can talk about both those elements. So in terms of collision data, so we have collision statistics for sort of across London. So what we tend to do is look at the last 3 years and then specifically look at vulnerable road users. So that's walking and cycling collisions, and they're looked at in terms of severity. So you have slight collisions, severe collisions, and then fatal collisions. So we do that analysis across the area to look at where the issues are and how we can design those out specifically. And then in terms of the traffic data question, so yeah, we've collected a fair amount of data. So we've collected automatic traffic counts, so they capture traffic volumes and traffic speeds, but we've also undertaken origin and destination surveys. So that's where it records vehicle number plates. So that would be vehicles coming into the area, for example, at the southeast corner on Wolves Lane, and then leaving the area, perhaps heading north on Green Lanes towards the A406, and then it would pick up which road they've used. So we can understand how much traffic is passing through the area, and then also how long it takes that traffic to pass through the area. So if a local resident is coming into the area and then stops for the day, for example, then obviously that trip gets recorded from sort of A to B as a very long time, and therefore we recognise that there's a local activity in the area. If that trip happens in a matter of minutes, then we can surmise that the vehicle hasn't stopped passing through the area. So we get an understanding of the total volumes, the traffic speeds, what volumes of traffic passing through the area haven't stopped, and what volumes of traffic in the area are local, and that then enables us to redistribute the traffic based on the interventions we're proposing. So if that's the school streets, obviously Tottenham Hall and Grenoble Gardens are out of use during the school street periods, and we can ascertain how much traffic is reassigned. And obviously if the additional measure of the bound right turns is put in, again we can assess that using the traffic data we've collected. So that will all be analysed as part of this process.
Okay, thanks, Alex. When it comes to encouraging more active travel and cycle usage, one of the questions asked is, what do people do about bike storage in terms of safety of their bikes, and what's the council doing to help with that?
I can answer that.
Yep.
Yeah, so with these schemes, we can look to provide some secure cycling storage, such as bike hangers or secure points where we have identified that there's people trying to make trips to and from. And so right now we're a bit early on in the design to kind of look at those things, but as the design progresses, we can look and identify some places that those could be implemented.
Great, thank you. So in terms of the survey, a couple of questions around the survey on how people will see the results from this survey that's currently being hosted, and also just why there's a requirement to register to complete the survey. Liz, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So as I've mentioned, we are going to be producing an engagement summary report. So that will have information on who and how many people engaged in this process, including at our events, through the survey, number of emails, things like that. And then it will comment on the themes raised and the comments raised. Sorry, it won't comment on it. It will include a summary of those comments that we've heard. So that will be produced and published on the project page within the next couple of months. And in terms of registering for the Let's Talk Enfield website, so we ask people to register an account on that website, and then you can take part in any engagement activity across any of the projects on the site. So this makes it well, it helps us understand who we're engaging in terms of demographics. It enables us to email people updates on the projects that they're interested in, and it also enables people to log on once and have that information already filled out if they were to participate in another survey or online interactive map or whatever else the activity is being run on that site. So instead of having to fill out, you know, how you're connected to Enfield, your demographic questions every time, you fill it out when you've signed up, and then you can use your login to continue using that site. There's more information on that on the Welcome to Let's Talk Enfield page on that site if anybody's interested.
Thanks, Liz. So when it comes to the banned right-hand turns, will there be any enforcement in place, in particular cameras, to ensure that isn't being, you know, is being enforced, particularly the banned right-hand turns onto green lanes?
Yeah, I can answer that. So yeah, the short answer is yes. The school street filters and the banned right turns would be camera enforced.
Great, thank you. And there's another question to ask, why this area in particular in terms of a quieter neighbourhood? What's special or different about it in regards to the Transport for London report?
Yep, I can answer that. So yeah, in terms of this area, so that as I touched on earlier, there are a few factors here. So one of those factors is just the air quality comparative to the rest of the Enfield borough is a bit lower here, so it's something that we're looking to improve through our improvements. It's also, given the proximity of the A406, it's right by it. You do get quite a bit of rat running through this neighborhood, so that's something that we're looking to address through the interventions here. And then yeah, also the number of schools in the area. So in this kind of close proximity, it's we believe we can deliver more benefits through improvements here in particular.
Thanks, Suzanne. Okay, we've got two questions here around Wolves Lane. So how does the removal of the roundabout on Wolves Lane contribute to improving road safety? And the other question on Wolves Lane is Wolves Lane going to become a one-way?
So I can take both of those. So I'll answer the second one first. No, Wolves Lane will remain two-way. And then in terms of the roundabout removal, essentially, you know, with the one-way street from the west, you've got a single movement going in there, and then with the banned right turns, we're essentially reducing the number of turning movements at the mini roundabout, and therefore there's an opportunity to re-provide it in a different format. So just basically a standard four-arm junction. Potentially there's scope for a right turn pocket for vehicles heading northbound and turning right. So there is the opportunity to introduce a safe junction whilst removing the mini roundabout. Obviously that would be supplemented with some of the measures that Ryan talked about in terms of the traffic calming measures as well. So yeah, it's perfectly feasible to create a safe junction whilst removing the mini roundabout.
Great, thanks, Alex. Next question is there any evidence to show that people undertake U-turns when they can't get down the road they originally wanted to use?
So yeah, I can answer that. I mean, there's no evidence to suggest that. Obviously, that is something that there'll be monitoring taking place, and that's something that will be considered and looked at as part of the monitoring. But as I say, there are alternative routes with the ban right turns, so we don't anticipate that will be a significant issue.
Great, thank you. And when it comes to monitoring the impacts of the QN going forward, will traffic counting on roads take into account displaced traffic, including video counts and queue lengths? How will that work?
So, I mean, I touched on the surveys that have been undertaken. So that includes a combination of ATCs, which are the tubes referred to, but also the origin and destination surveys I mentioned is using video footage, and we also have queue length data.
Great, thank you, Alex. Okay, so enabling two-way cycling in motor vehicle one-way streets would incentivise cycling. Would that be considered?
Yeah, potentially. Obviously, we have to look at the sort of the safety of cyclists turning onto the roads, but contraflow cycling is something we can consider if the roads are appropriate width. So that's something that we'll look at the next stage of design. Okay,
thank you. And there's a question relating to Brownlow Road here, whether it's going to be closed to cars between the hours of 7 in the morning and 7 at night.
Yeah, just on that Brownlow Road is not part of this project, so that's not relevant to this.
Okay, thank you. And has the council applied for Transport for London funding for the project, and what's the outcome?
Yes, we have applied, and we do have funding from TfL, from their local implementation plan fund.
Great, thank you. And what about visitors in cars visiting residents in the school streets during the school quiet times? How will that work?
I can answer that. Yeah, so so the permits would only be for the residents living within those roads. So the restrictions are during short periods of times in the morning or the afternoon. So residents or so visitors wouldn't be allowed to enter those roads during those periods.
Thank you. And what about people trying to travel south to Wood Lane or Crouch End? How would that work with this scheme?
So yeah, I mean that's linked to the ban right turns. As I said, that we do accept that some local trips will have to take alternative routes, but there are opportunities either via Wolves Lane onto the A406 and then onto Greens Lanes, or to the east or west, Princes Avenue, Tottenhall, and then Spencer Avenue to the west. Again, it's that balance between removing the large volumes of through traffic that we're seeing, particularly on Grenoble Gardens, and offsetting that with some additional mileage for a small amount of local trips.
Right, thanks, Alex. We're going to wrap up soon, so are there any final questions before we do? I see. Actually, we've got one question with regards to Haringey Council and what conversations you've had with Haringey and any potential impacts on the residents there.
Yep. So recognizing that we are adjacent to the neighbouring Haringey borough, we do meet regularly with Haringey officers to keep them informed of any developments, and we pass on any data or information that we do receive once it is available.
Thanks. Okay, there is already a quieter neighbourhood closing access to Bowes Green. Will there not be a cumulative effect by QNs in proximity to one another with regards to the new routes people have to take?
I can take that. I mean, it goes back to the point Christina made earlier around the sort of certainly since sort of Waze and Google Maps has come forward that we've seen a lot more traffic on residential roads because they sort of have a much better knowledge of the road network. So what these schemes are trying to do is redress that balance, and we're looking at local trips on local roads, residential roads, and strategic trips on the strategic roads that are designed to take those high volumes. So we've got obviously the North Circular, which is the sort of trunk road, or the busiest trunk road in London. We've got Green Lanes, which is designated as a strategic road network. So these are the roads that are designed for that strategic traffic, it's about redressing that balance and reallocating that traffic that has moved onto residential roads in the last few years.
Thanks, Alex. We have a question about school streets. What are the benefits of school streets that you can demonstrate that you've implemented in other areas?
Yeah, just on that. So from the school streets that we've implemented in other areas across Enfield, we found that they have reduced nitrogen dioxide levels in the areas surrounding schools, resulting in a improved air quality in those local areas, and it's also made it safer for school children coming to and from school during those pick-up and drop-off times. So it's benefits wise, it's safety and also health and safety, really.
Great, thanks, Hassan. So are there any further questions before we finish for the evening? I'm conscious of people's time. Okay, well, I think we'll call that a wrap then. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We really do appreciate it. And as Liz has already said, the themes from tonight will be included within our reporting, and any questions that are not already covered in the FAQs on the website will be added as well as the recording from this evening. Please do, if you haven't already, take part in the survey, which is hosted on the project page and which you can find by using the QR code. So thank you very much, and goodbye.